Gabbard. All right, what to make of this Iran deal depends on who you ask. Let's check it out. Welcome to Rob Schmitt Tonight. Vice President J.D. Vance back in Washington tonight after spending several days in Switzerland beginning the process of a potential peace deal with Iran. Now, part of why this deal is so difficult to sell to the American people, and it has been thus far, is because Trump and Republicans spent years mocking Obama for making a deal with Iran's always lying, terrorist-producing regime. The JCPOA was their deal, and it has been ridiculed for more than a decade as a total capitulation to terror. The Obama administration literally funding evil in exchange for what was a very flimsy nuclear deal that Iran cheated anyway. After all that trash talk, last week's memorandum of understanding was probably not the best thing to put out in that moment. It looked like a list of goodies and money for Iran based on simply a promise to end its nuclear ambitions. And that is kind of the issue here. What we're going to do tonight is kind of dive into all of this and lay it out for you in a way that's easy to understand. But first, here's J.D. Vance saying this after leaving the negotiations from Switzerland.
We laid a very good foundation for a successful final deal. The final deal is the house. We set the foundation. We haven't built the house, but we've laid a successful foundation to get to a good place for the American people. I think it's important for all of us to appreciate how much was done, but honestly, there is still a lot to do as we continue to make progress on the nuclear talks, on the economic talks, as we continue to demine the straits and ensure that that flow of traffic continues to pick back up. A lot of progress, but still some work to do, and we're very committed to doing exactly that.
So this is the sausage making. This is not, the best time to be watching something like this. This is when the administration is going to take the most hits for this deal. Of course, that's how it works. He says they're laying a foundation, but the Iranian regime, as we all know, is immediately getting relief from the tremendous pressure that we have applied through this blockade and through all of this bombing. That detail is very bothersome. It bothers Trump supporters, it bothers Israel, it bothers pretty much everybody, and it's a hell of a lot of ammunition for Trump's critics. But as we said last week, at its core, this deal, whatever it is going to be wholly different than Obama's, because this one comes with the continued threat of decimation, a threat that the Obama administration would have never made against Iran, because as you see in these photos with John Kerry standing there, Obama's negotiating team was full of regime sympathizers. The Obama team sympathized with Iran. They had a heart for Iran. They had a lot of loyalists to Iran in their State Department. On the other hand, the team that's negotiating right now hates this regime. They've been bombing this regime. As the media continues to claim Iran is running circles around the Trump White House, which is exactly what's happening, the president today reminding Americans of the score.
Their Navy is gone. Their Air Force is gone. Their leaders are all dead. Their whole country is a mess. Their economy is shot. Their anti-aircraft is gone. Their radar is gone. Their leaders are gone. Their whole country is gone. Most of their missiles are gone. Most of their launching pads are gone. Most of their manufacturing capacity for drones and missiles is gone. Their first level of leaders, gone. Their second level of leaders, gone.
This is how he starts this negotiation. Under the last administration, under Obama, I should say, it started off with a big smile and the promise of a lot of money. This time it started with, we're going to blow the hell out of your country, and then we're going to talk. So let's objectively look at both deals here to try and correct our vision of what's actually happening. Why was Obama's deal so awful? Well, it released tremendous wealth on a terror regime in exchange for a very meager delay in nuclear ambition. And even though the Iranians got that deal from John Kerry and company, they still cheated it anyways. Can you imagine cheating a deal like that? And of course they did, because why would a Middle Eastern terror country fear the Obama presidency? They all knew Obama was a, different kind of president of the United States, certainly not one that we're proud of today. They knew Obama hated Israel. Obama kind of felt like an ally to the Iranian regime. And certainly the people that he put in place to do this negotiating felt like allies. This situation couldn't be any more different. This started off with bombing the hell out of Iran, their nuclear facilities, a year ago. And then came more bombing this year, decimating the vast majority of Iran's military, and so much of their radar and equipment and bombs, costing them billions and billions of dollars. That's where we started the negotiation. Trump is now saying, we'll unfreeze some of your assets, which is what everybody's jumping on as criticism, right? We'll unfreeze some of your assets and set you up with a potential reconstruction fund brought in by your ally countries nearby, not our money. But he puts all that out there and says, but if you mess with us in any way, if you don't do exactly what we expect you to do, you know what's coming. As claims the Trump White House is being gamed in this deal, and there's claims like that everywhere. Just turn on your television. Everybody thinks that we're getting the raw end and Iran is running circles around this administration. J.D. Vance saying this today.
You can't trust anybody's words. You have to trust what they actually do. Letting in the inspectors is a big deal, but again, we're going to see what they actually let the inspectors do once they're in the country. That's going to continually be a part of our negotiation. So my point is not that I trust or distrust anybody. My point is that I trust actions. And what the president has asked us to do is verify what they're doing, focus less on what they're saying.
Verify what they're doing, less on what they're saying. All right, let's talk about this. Blaine Holt, retired Air Force Brigadier General, fairly confident at this point. Khosro Isfahani, senior analyst at the National Union for Democracy in Iran, not so much confident, but I want to hear both your sides. We're going to talk this through. Good to see you guys. Blaine, I'll start with you. How are you feeling on this Monday?
Good. Solid. The delegation, we heard noise all weekend long. Oh, they're quitting. They're leaving. We're not going to get anywhere. Lebanon's the deal killer. But they didn't leave, and they were negotiating until 1 a.m, and they're still at it right now. And then there's this other piece. We all seem to be fixated on this. Well, we're negotiating with this regime. Yeah, which regime? The IRGC? No. Pezeshkian and the civilians? Yeah. Or what about the mullahs and the Ayatollah? No. They're sunsetting. So are there going to be more bombs in this as we get rid of the IRGC? Probably. Yep, that's probably right. But these performance measures are a wholly different approach. And by the way, the free Iranian people, the ones who will be free, they're going to need our help. They're going to need an economy. And they'll get to have those things. We're going to get rid of the nuclear weapons. We're going to have the Straits of Hormuz going. No, there's not going to be some weird insurance deal. But it will get to the right place, and this is the right track. And the detractors, well, they were welded to the past, and many of them just don't like President Trump, and they don't want him to be successful at anything.
So, Khosro, I want to ask you, but I think so much of the disappointment that people are feeling is the fact that there's a negotiation at all with these horrendous people that have destroyed this country over the last 50 years. That, I think it starts there, right?
A large portion of it, yes. That's exactly where many Iranians come to the table when we hear the news of the United States, the president that many of us cheered, celebrated, supported over the years, because he has been the only president in the U.S. history that has been able and had the guts to strike the Islamic Republic where it hurts. When we see his administration even sitting down for talks with the Islamic Republic, that hurts. Our critics are also coming at us saying that you put your trust in Donald Trump. We had warned you that he is going to sell you out. I don't believe that President Trump has sold out the Iranian people. He had never pledged to provide us with freedom. He has pledged to protect the United States' national interest, and he is trying to do that to the best of his ability. What I believe here is happening is that American negotiators are projecting their own values, their own principles on the Islamic Republic. Yeah. This regime is not entering these talks with good faith, and I'm not just saying that because they are lying. We all know that they are lying.
And we suspect, Khosro, that knowledge exists inside with this team. I mean, I don't think there's anybody, and Blaine, you can speak to this. Does anybody actually implicitly trust anyone they're talking to in Iran? I don't think they do.
No, there's zero trust.
No one.
Go ahead, Blaine.
The other part of this is
not a matter of trust.
There's not 130,000 U.S. forces on the ground, nor will there be. So that means you have to get about this a very different way, because we're not going to kick in the doors. We're not going to burn everything to the ground. We're not going to impanel an occupation force government. And that means we're going to be working hand in hand with a new government, probably an interim one at first, of non-radicals. And then it'll grow from there. Probably looks a lot like a Venezuelan model. But I'll tell you what won't be present. What won't be present is the financialists of the City of London playing both sides of every war, killing untold soldiers from all these countries. And yes, Iran deserves to be free. But 47 years has gone by, and a lot of manipulation and a lot of dead soldiers everywhere and dead civilians.
Right.
And this unique approach, this has got the best chance of any of them since Intel Services put Khomeini in 1979.
Khosro, I got 30 seconds left. For the people of your disposition and the supporters of Israel, the people that are nervous in this moment, what makes you feel better as this moves forward?
I have absolute faith in the Iranian people, their determination for liberation, and I have absolute faith in our brothers and sisters in IDF, and I have absolute faith in the brave men and women who fight in the U.S. Army and in the intelligence services of this country. The Islamic Republic will strike again, and we will fight them to the last drop of our blood. We are not going to be defeated. Defeat for us is death of our civilization. We are going to fight back. We are going to take Iran back.
Love that.
I agree.
Khosro, thank you so much. Blaine Holt, good to see you guys. Thanks a lot. Katie McFarland, former Deputy National Security Advisor under the President in the first term, joins us now. Let's start there and just take your pulse on how this looks in this moment.
I think it's terrific. I mean, just take a step back. What have we gotten? Iran doesn't get nuclear weapons. The Strait is going to be reopened. We're going to have a terrific prices for oil and natural gas and gasoline at the pumps. Our economy is going to soar, and we've at the same time done something that no American president's had the guts to do, which is to stop Iran's nuclear program. And we have the ability to verify it, and we have the ability to enforce it if they cheat, which we know they'll cheat. But
yeah.
The sanctions regime is kept in place. We could turn that on in 5 minutes. The military is still there. The Armada is there. We could resume military operations in an hour. So I think we've got the best of all worlds. And as we walk out of it, we have a changed Middle East, because we now have the Gulf Arabs in alliance with the United States and Israel.
I think the assumption from so many that kind of follow this, and I think yours as well, is that Iran is going to cheat and this will fall apart at some point.
Yeah.
What's your reaction to the fact that we're opening up such a tremendous amount of wealth for the regime in the near term, that they're already selling oil, they're bringing in billions of dollars over the course of the next couple of weeks? Does that change the calculus in your mind at all?
No, because of the way they're opening the money. So we're going to be able to watch where the money goes.
Yeah.
Cleverly, because we're now letting them sell and buy in dollars, those goes through American banks. We can see where the money goes, how much money they're getting. Before, with the shadow fleets, it was a black hole. We didn't know where the money was going. So if they say, oh, we're going to use our money to rebuild hospitals, but in fact they're going to use their money to send to Hezbollah and rebuild missiles, we'll see where that money goes. And then what do? We can shut down that whole money train just as quickly as we turned it on.
Do you think that the Iranians might be bolder, assuming that there's no interest in a larger, more broad war and returning to fighting, that the president doesn't want to do that?
You mean that the Iranian people or the Iranian regime?
The regime. Do you think the regime might be bolder, knowing that Trump is not going to likely want to go back? He doesn't want to fight anymore.
No, but Trump, look, one thing we've learned about Donald Trump is that, you don't play him for a fool. If they try to cheat, if they try to be tricky on him, if they play him along, he's going to have no hesitation to go right back in and resume military operations.
One thing about, the memorandum of understanding last week, I thought it was, I didn't like how that came out. I thought it was more of a communications failure to put that out. It just seemed like, here's all the stuff we're going to give you. And I didn't like the way that played, and it certainly got hit in the media pretty hard. We're starting to see some of the asterisks on that thing this week, though. Trump said today, okay, we're going to open up, the money that we've sanctioned, but you got to spend it with us on food for your people. And so all of a sudden, boom, that's a huge change, because you can't fund terror with this money.
You'll see where that money goes. It's like food stamps. You know, you're not going to be allowed to buy certain things with it, Iran. You can buy American products. You can do humanitarian assistance or rebuilding in your own country. You try to do other stuff with that money dries up right away.
So your confidence level at this point, after watching where we're at right now, how are you?
Yeah, I mean, here's the only thing I think that can screw it all up is if say the IRGC. So I think what's happening, Rob, is the IRGC doesn't want this deal. The pragmatists have negotiated the deal. The IRGC, they want to blow up the deal. So how are they going to blow it up? They're going to unleash Hezbollah to attack Israel, knowing that Israel will respond. And then the IRGC guys, the hardliners, can say, oh, clearly this is now no longer a ceasefire, they're cheating. But the good news about this is this deconfliction committee, we've never had something like this. This deconfliction committee is going to pounce right on it. So if say, Israel tries to sabotage the deal, if the IRGC tries to sabotage the deal, if the Kurds, anybody tries to sabotage the deal, we can move it away, we can move around it, put that to the side, and get back to the main parts of the deal.
Okay. All right. KT, good to see you. We'll wait and see.
Thank you.
All right. Total obsession over this reflecting pool renovation. I mean, look at these people protesting and all the chaos that came with it as a number of TDS tourists have been arrested there. The National Mall, it's amazing, isn't it? Plus, later in news from the left, Ilhan Omar now claiming to be poor. Really hard to overstate how much of a fraud this woman is.
I lost 110 pounds. You couldn't tell at all because of my excess skin. Sono Bello changed that in one visit.
Introducing the new Lift EX, the just one visit total body transformation everyone is talking about.
I am super happy with my results.
I decided to give Sono Bello a try. Look at me, I have a silhouette. You can see my waist.
Lift EX is Sono Bello's breakthrough 360-degree body lift alternative. Our body contouring experts sculpt, tighten, and lift your stomach, waist, thighs, and backside, all in just one visit with less downtime.
Sono Bello targeted the areas diet exercise could not do. I found me again.
Sono Bello has over 50,000 five-star reviews, and Lift EX is exclusively available at Sono Bello, America's #1 cosmetic surgery specialist. Book your free, personalized consultation today. Easy monthly plans make your best body more affordable than ever.
This year is my year thanks to Sono Bello.
Call Sono Bello for your free consultation today.
My husband is Miguel Cervantes, who was a firefighter with the Rancho Cucamonga Fire District. That's what he absolutely loved. My husband's cancer is directly related to his service as a firefighter. My immediate thought after he was gone was, how am I going to do this? Tunnel to Towers said that it would be their honor to help me out by covering my mortgage. To say that it's been a weight lifted off my shoulder would be an understatement.
Mike Hammond of Signal Relief. We've helped nearly 700,000 feel relief in their back, shoulders, and knees with our technology. But for many of us, it's our feet that hurt. And when they hurt, our walks get shorter, activities are skipped, and the moments we love start slipping away. That's why we created the Signal Step, a patent-pending insole built using the same proven technology people already trust from Signal Relief. Signal uses no drugs. There's nothing on the market like it. It's relief without the side effects. It's reusable, fits virtually into any shoe, and in a recent study, over 85% felt relief, and it comes with a money-back guarantee. So what are you waiting for? Feel relief with every step. If you're hurting, go to signalstep.com and get relief today.
The multi-million-dollar renovation of the pool has been plagued by problems.
Problems that have plagued it since an expensive renovation.
Problems with the reflecting pool in Washington.
A monumental mess.
A big, expensive failure.
Some consider just to be a really bad repair job. A liquid jungle, which is what it looks like.
When you think about the huge stories that we've seen over the last 5-7 years in this country that didn't get this much coverage, the media is once again revealing itself with the total obsession over Trump's reflecting pool renovation, which, by the way, so much of that renovation was just to kind of shore it up. It was leaking. It was old. They're nonstop with this. The coverage of the algae and the peeling liner. And the liner, you know, maybe there was an issue with the liner. Imagine if they cared this much, though, about Hunter Biden's laptop or the Russia investigation, things like that, and reporting it honestly. The newly renovated pool is a mess. It's clear something probably didn't go right here. And in addition to that, we also have vandalism on the pool from all of these Trump deranged tourists that are like trying to tear up the liner at the base of this thing. It's like a huge swimming pool. The president saying earlier 5 alleged vandals have been arrested. Another 5 are being investigated.
We have I think 290, 300-foot slit right through it, probably a box cutter or a knife of some kind. It's not a lot of damage, but we'll probably have to let the water out. 5 people are arrested and 5 people are under investigation. Who would think that somebody would go into a pool and take a knife and start cutting it? They cut it very violently. The same thing with the floor, they cut it. And then they lifted it, they pulled it. At the right time, you'll see it. You'll see it in court.
So the liner situation, you know, who knows what's really going on with it? Obviously, it's being vandalized at the same time. There might be something wrong with the liner. The algae problem, we can tell you, anybody that has a pool knows, if it's over about 60 degrees outside and you don't have chlorine in a pool and you don't have a filtration system of some kind or salt, you're going to have algae. That's just part of the deal. That's like any pond you've ever seen in your life. In addition to that, you have 3-time U.S. Olympian canoeist David Hearn is one of the people arrested, charged with a misdemeanor destruction of government property. He denies the allegation he destroyed anything. He says he just admitted to reaching into the pool and touching this American flag blue liner at the base of it. The National Guard in place to look over the pool at this point, as some media claim that there's no evidence of vandalism at all.
And he's blaming vandals for the deterioration without providing any evidence.
Here's the thing. There's no evidence being offered by the authorities that any of this happened.
People are buying into this whole sabotage bull. It was sabotage. It was sabotage by the Trump administration.
Seemingly, there's no proof.
We have asked the White House for evidence of those allegations, but have not yet heard back.
We had Adam Kinzinger in there. If he stood in the reflecting pool, he would drown, even though it's only 2 feet deep. Independent journalist Nick Sorter posting video, by the way, an 8647 carved into the liner. For those that say there's no evidence of vandalism to it, somebody carved in 8647. So there you have that. Katie Zacharia, Senior Communications Advisor for Truth Social, joins us now. Amy Robbins, host of the Amy Robbins Show. Katie, we start with you. Here's ABC's Jonathan Karl. You see video, he's down on his knees with his hands in the reflecting pool. They are obsessed with this story. Go ahead.
Oh, obsessed with this story, Rob, but the historian and poli-sci major nerd in me always wants to go back in time. President Trump is trying to fix problems with Iran, problems that have been created long before him. And what do we have? We have the TDS-driven Democrats just clinging to this idea that we can't fix anything. And this is a more widespread problem. The Democrats, MacArthur Park in Los Angeles, let's go to Minneapolis, let's go to New York, any Democrat-run city, they want you to live in your filth and love it. They can live in Malibu, but they want you to live in your filth. So when President Trump tries to fix a reflecting pool, they are actually protesting beautification because they have learned to love their filth and live in it.
It is comical to see why do they get so pissed off when you try to live in a nice place, when you try to clean up a city? It enrages them, and they live there too. It's interesting how that is. And Amy, it's amazing listening to them scream about the $14 million that was used to try and fix and preserve this massive monument, this massive reflecting pool between 2 massive monuments. $14 million, not to marginalize our tax dollars, but that's like a slow weekend for a Somalian fraudster.
Well, first off, this just exposes the height of hypocrisy once again from the mainstream media, because let's not forget, under Obama, he spent $34 million to renovate the reflecting pool and had algae regrowing in it just a few weeks later. And I don't know about you, but I don't remember hearing a word about it from the mainstream media. And yet now all we can hear about are any little issues that are going on with this renovation, except for, of course, the vandalism aspect. We know that there have been 5 arrests, 5 citations, and yet the mainstream media has stayed silent on it. But one thing, Rob, I wanted to point out was that why does it always seem that the destruction and the desecration of all of our historic landmarks and monuments come from one side? This is not happening on the right. We continue to see the toppling of our statues, the defacing of our monuments, and yet the mainstream media stays silent on it time and time again.
Yeah, I mean, and there might have been a liner issue here, and obviously they got to figure out some workaround with algae, which they have to figure that out. But I mean, Katie, did you see the protesters? Roll the protester video if we could here. There's people protesting in support of algae because algae is ruining the pool. This is not Trump's pool, is what's so interesting about this. This is everybody's pool. Don't we all want to have a nicer city to live in? I mean, the derangement over something like this really does show you just how divided the country is. Katie, your final word.
Yes, and here they have now elected a Democrat Socialist Party mayor for D.C. after Mayor Bowser had worked with President Trump to bring down crime to a historic lows in D.C. And it's almost like people are begging, we want crime, we want filth. And so to have these algae protesters, Rob, is really just a metaphor for the greater scam of the Democrat Party is again, as I said before, they're begging for the crime, they're begging for the filth because they've been told that they should live in this. And President Trump, the Make America Great Again, it's a mindset is you need to learn to love your country and be okay with greatness and seek greatness rather than accept this mediocrity that you've been told to live in, Rob.
Yeah, the primary winner in Washington, D.C., the socialists. I mean, it's because you know what would a blue city be without 10 or 20 dead black kids every weekend? You know, they can't have it any other way. That's how disgusting their politics are, and that's exactly what's going to happen. It's going to get dirty and dangerous again. She'll defy Trump. D.C. will go back to being a dump, and they'll find some kind of equity in that is the most amazing thing. Katie, Zacharia, Amy, Robbins, good to see you both. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Rob.
All right, political shockwaves in the UK. Keir Starmer out after just 2 years. The UK is a full-throttle disaster. Restore Britain's Rupert Lowe on that up next.
I switched to Newsmax.
Newsmax.
Have you made the switch? You bet I did. My whole family switched. Millions are switching to Newsmax. You should too.
There's a reason the wealthy don't keep all their money in one place. We work hard our entire lives to build wealth for retirement. If your retirement dropped 30% tomorrow, would you be ready? Or would you just have to wait and hope it comes back? The last thing any of us wants is to watch our retirement accounts shrink every time Wall Street panics, the dollar drops, or global uncertainty rises. That's why so many successful Americans turn to gold to help protect their retirement. And Preserve Gold is the only precious metals company I trust and recommend. Let me be frank, gold is not for everybody. And I do not give financial advice, but I do urge you to get my free wealth protection guide from Preserve Gold and learn about a special offer to receive up to $20,000 in free gold and silver. Education is power.
Text Newsmax to 50505.
Where's the admission desk at your hospital? You may need it sooner than you think. It's the middle of the night and you, your spouse, or your child is sick, high fever, can't keep anything down, and getting worse. Now you're waiting in the ER, and everyone gets seen before you. And when I finally see you and order prescriptions, you still have to wait for your pharmacy to open and hope they have what I prescribed. This is the medical emergency kit. It's stocked with essential medications, including amoxicillin, generic Z-Pak, and ivermectin. Now you have the right medications when you need them. And it's why I and so many of my colleagues have medical emergency kits. It's like having an urgent care and pharmacy in your home. Just fill out a brief online medical intake and your kit, prescribed by a licensed provider, is shipped to your door. Here's how to order.
Order your kit now and save $45. Visit urgentcarekit.com/news. That's urgentcarekit.com/news.
You might take something for your heart or your joints. So why wouldn't you take something for the most important part of you, your brain? Prevagen for your brain.
Hi, I'm Karan. I've been taking Prevagen for 4 years now. I noticed a significant change. I feel confident.
Prevagen for your brain. Every day presents a new opportunity for you to take care of your brain. Supplement your good brain habits with Prevagen. Prevagen for your brain.
Like a relentless weed, moderate to severe Crohn's disease symptoms can keep coming back. Break away to what's possible with Tremfya. Tremfya can help with remission at 12 weeks, 1 year, and 2 years. Some had visible repair of their intestinal lining. Serious allergic reactions, increased risk of infections or lower ability to fight them, and liver problems may occur. Before treatment, get checked for infections and TB. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, flu-like symptoms, or need a vaccine. Break away with Tremfya. Ask your doctor about Tremfya today.
The question my party is asking now is whether I am best placed to lead us into the next general election. I have heard the answer of my parliamentary party to that question. That is why I will resign as leader of the Labour Party.
All right, so a pretty wild story from across the pond. That's Keir Starmer, the leftist Labour Prime Minister, resigning less than 2 years after a landslide victory for his party. It did not take long for him to lose power. Starmer going to remain in place till July 9. Then they nominate his successor. The UK, as you know, is a disaster. Very high taxes, next to no economic growth at all, an economy that's comparable in size to the state of Mississippi. The UK used to be the powerhouse of the world. Now it's, I think, smaller than Mississippi. It also has a migration disaster that Keir Starmer has done nothing about. Just last year, over 41,000 illegals flooded Britain's shores by boat, the second largest on record. And let's not forget the horrific details that Starmer's government helped to cover up on these Pakistani rape gangs, allowed to operate with impunity for years in the UK, thanks to tremendous left-wing white guilt, letting these gangs run through the country and do horrific things. Rupert Lowe, a UK member of parliament, has released a rape gang inquiry report that we looked into last week. This details the systematic targeting of vulnerable girls, overwhelmingly white British, by predominantly Muslim Pakistani rape gangs across towns and cities up and down the country. So vile, it's almost difficult to even imagine this is a real thing. At least 250,000 young white girls have been subjected to repeated rape, gang rape, trafficking, torture, pregnancy, forced Islamic conversion, and lifelong trauma, as they have invited in a disaster into this once great nation. And Rupert Lowe joins us now, member of UK Parliament, leader of Restore Britain. And, sir, thank you for coming on tonight. This is your seventh prime minister in 10 years. What is happening in your country?
Well, let me just say, Rob, that was a great introduction. There was only one thing you got wrong in that. You called it a landslide election victory. I call it a landslip election victory.
Okay, fair enough.
Because it was yes, a large number of seats he won by, but the actual turnout was low, and his percentage of the vote was very low. So it was a landslip rather than a landslide. But you're quite right, and I think the fact we've now, I think there'll be 7 prime ministers in 10 years. If it was a corporation, you'd say it was pretty sick. And I think if you look at our debt levels, if you look at our taxation levels, if you look at our growth levels, you look at the regulation that's strangling productive Britain, you look at the growth of the state, you look at all the things that are oppressing the people, not least Keir Starmer's sort of Fabian agenda, which over 2 years has done untold damage. You have to say that we are not in a healthy position, and we need a lot of help from you guys over the other side of the Atlantic.
Right. Well, I don't understand what the voting public is voting for. I mean, I don't understand how that party still holds power. Your system's a little different than ours, but if they're decimating your country the way they are, they're decimating your economy, your migration disaster, this report that you just released about these rape gangs, how is there not just a huge movement pushing this country to the right?
Well, I think it's a very fair question, but under our Constitution, you have a 5-year term. And with such a big majority, I think it's unlikely, it's not impossible, but it's unlikely that Labour will have another general election. So Andy Burnham, who actually lost out in a leadership contest with Jeremy Corbyn, who is even further left than Keir Starmer, arguably a man, I think, of principle. So he says what he thinks, whereas I think Keir Starmer says almost the opposite of what he thinks. So this guy, Andy Burnham, lost out and then went off to be mayor of Manchester, which is a northern city in the UK. And he hasn't really done a huge amount for Manchester. But I think Labour are in such dire trouble, they had to create what I call the Ghostbuster, which was to give them another chance at trying to win over the public. But the bottom line is when your standard of living is falling, when taxation is rising, when everything is becoming more and more expensive, the British people, I think, have had enough. And our rape gang report, which was necessary, was privately crowdfunded by 20,000 concerned citizens of the UK, and we raised £600,000. And we've carried out over a year, it's taken us to do the witness statements, to basically have a proper 2-week hearing, and then to write a report of 218 pages, which takes some reading. So look, I mean, it's a pervasive evil that's been going on for 30, 40, 50 years.
It's tremendous. It's and not to cut you off just simply because we're out of time, but that report, which we dove into significantly last week, was just horrifying. And if that, along with the other conditions that have been created in your country, don't wake up the people in that country, you wonder at what point do you lose hope. But we're wishing you the best.
I don't see, Rob, how anyone can ever vote Labour again after they facilitated
I can't imagine how they could.
Pervasive evil.
Yeah, I can't imagine how they could. I got to leave it there, Rupert. But thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
All right. Coming up here, Tony Fauci reportedly begged Joe Biden for a pardon on the last day of his presidency, evidently aware that he had committed an atrocity against the world. That is up next.
It's our America. We built it. Courage, freedom. Millions go to Newsmax when they need to know. Start today on the free Newsmax app. Newsmax is real news for real people.
My heart has experienced life-changing wins, losses, and countless miles. To keep living at my speed, I trust Cunol CoQ10. CoQ10 is the #1 cardiologist-recommended supplement for heart health. Cunol, the brand I trust.
Attention! Do you owe money to the IRS? If you owe $10,000 or more, you must hear this message because new Trump-era tax policy changes are providing relief to the American taxpayer. IRS policy changes in 2025 and 2026 have created new ways to resolve debt. Tax Relief Helpers knows exactly how to navigate them and could help you save thousands. Just call 800-357-9528 to protect your assets, home, and retirement.
I owed $87,000 in taxes. Tax Relief Helpers got the amount I owed down to just $3,500. I saved $83,500.
I got behind on my taxes and I owed $48,000. I called, and after they told me about the changes at the IRS, they got my bill fully removed.
We save Americans millions of dollars in tax debt every year, and we can help you. Call right now to take advantage of the latest Trump-era tax deductions to protect your assets, home, and retirement from the IRS. The call and consult are absolutely free. Call 800-357-9528. That's 800-357-9528. Attention! Do you owe money to the IRS? If you owe $10,000 or more, you must hear this message because new Trump-era tax policy changes are providing relief to the American taxpayer. IRS policy changes in 2025 and 2026 have created new ways to resolve debt. Tax Relief Helpers knows exactly how to navigate them and could help you save thousands. Just call 800-357-9528 to protect your assets, home, and retirement.
I owed $87,000 in taxes. tax relief helpers got the amount I owed down to just $3,500. I saved $83,500.
I got behind on my taxes and I owed $48,000. I called, and after they told me about the changes at the IRS, they got my bill fully removed.
We save Americans millions of dollars in tax debt every year, and we can help you. Call right now to take advantage of the latest Trump-era tax deductions to protect your assets, home, and retirement from the IRS. The call and consult are absolutely free. Call 800-357-9528. That's 800-357-9528.
Average price for a gallon of gas? $4.43.
That's extortion.
Price for Paramount Plus? 99 cents per month for the first 2 months.
That sounds like a good deal.
You ready?
I love it.
Lots of other prices may be crazy, but ours is not. It's my home. The Paramount Plus Summer Sale. Just 99 cents per month for the first 2 months.
When you become a parent, everything changes. I invented LifeVac because I wanted to protect my daughter in the moments that matter most.
Choking can happen in seconds, and brain damage can happen in minutes.
When standard methods fail, you need a second chance because every child deserves a chance to grow up. Be ready for the moments you can't predict with LifeVac. Learn more at lifevac.net.
Thanks, Dad. Go to lifevac.net or call 877-543-3822.
Before the COVID pandemic, Dr. Fauci, as head of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, provided millions in U.S. taxpayer dollars to fund dangerous gain-of-function research on bat coronaviruses at the Wuhan Institute of Virology. On my final day as Director of National Intelligence, I'm releasing never-before-seen communications and documents that expose exactly how Fauci worked with politicized career leadership in the intelligence community to suppress the truth about his actions.
All right, so this is a big deal. Tulsi Gabbard releasing a trove of bombshell documents on her way out the door as the Director of National Intelligence. This all proves that Fauci funded dangerous gain-of-function research with our tax dollars at the Wuhan lab. That led to a pandemic that killed millions of dollars. Just coming from the DNI is a big deal. This is the proof. Anyone who blew the whistle tried to go against Fauci's curated cover-up. When it all came out, he immediately tried to say, oh, it came out of it was a bat and a pangolin and all this nonsense from a wet market. Anybody that went against that, he retaliated against. DNA Gabbard proving that anybody who spoke up was retaliated against immediately. We talk about that with Jay Bhattacharya all the time, who's now got his old job. Gabbard also notes that Fauci lied to Congress on a number of occasions. That's a federal crime, including in 2024, lying about viral research he was funding. Fauci praying that his pardon from Joe Biden will save him from a much-deserved prosecution, and far worse, to be honest, a pardon that Fauci reportedly begged for in the lead up to the end of the Biden administration. He was begging and pleading for a pardon because he knew he was a criminal. Take a listen to Trump's pardon attorney, Ed Martin, explain all this to Nick Shirley.
You can see, and these are email exchanges where Fauci, Dr. Fauci's lawyer is saying, will there be pardons for Fauci? And then in the morning of January 20th, and just in time for the change of the presidency, Fauci got his pardon. So Fauci immediately had his lawyer say, I accept the pardon, and sent that in. So they were very aware that they needed that, and they wanted it.
Amazing, isn't it? According to the Supreme Court, if you accept a pardon, by the way, it means that you are admitting to the guilt of the crime. So Tony Fauci has admitted that he is guilty of funding the creation of a virus that killed millions of people all around the world, cost trillions and trillions of dollars. You wonder how he lives with himself. Christina Bobb is an attorney with Judicial Watch. Hogan Gidley, former White House Deputy Press Secretary. Good to have you both here. Christina, Tulsi says about prosecuting Fauci that he lied to Congress in 2024. She claims there is a path. Rand Paul has been all over this as well, says Biden's pardon of Fauci is unconstitutionally vague, covers 10 years of potential crime, signed with an auto pen without direct authorization. He says you can't pardon someone for crimes never specified, says it should be challenged in court. How would a challenge like that go, Christina?
Well, it would be venued here in Washington, D.C., which makes the case particularly difficult. I agree with all of these assessments. I think that the pardon should be challenged. I don't think it's valid. A lot of the information that Director Gabbard released is new. However, the facts surrounding it of what he actually did, we've known for a while. The challenge really is the venue, Washington, D.C. I mean, the grand jury, if they were trying to seek an indictment, there would probably be grand jurors on the panel wearing masks because Fauci told them to. So it's an uphill battle, not because of the law. I think the law is pretty clear. I think he broke it. I think he lied to Congress. I think there's a number of things that we certainly can now prove. But the hard part is just how political this is. And for so many people here in D.C., it's a religious issue. Fauci is basically a religious leader to them.
It's so twisted. I mean, the reputation of this man, how the reality of it versus what they see when they see him is wild. It is, when you bring this up with people, it's wild. Hogan, he spoke at Stanford recently, chalking criticism of himself up to mis and disinformation. Take a listen.
There really is a downside because the amount of misinformation and disinformation, it appears that people who are spreading mis and disinformation are so effective and energetic as it's almost as if they don't have a day job.
I mean, Hogan, he funded this research that led to a pandemic, and then he lied and concealed it. There is no disinformation in that statement.
Yeah, the misinformation, disinformation comes directly from Dr. Fauci himself. And did you see how flip he was? Where he said, oh, yeah, it's all their fault. They're just crazy. They must have a lot of time on their hands. Well, I'm going to tell you something. There are children in this country right now who are going to face medical conditions for the rest of their lives because of what that man lied about. There are people in this country who lost their jobs and lost their businesses that will never get them back because of things Fauci did and lied about in that position. He has been a scam artist from day one. I worked with him in the White House. I was in the Situation Room with him many times. Yeah. We caught him in half-truths, misstatements, and just flat-out stupid comments all of the time. He knew exactly what he was doing. Christina's 100% right. The problem with holding this guy accountable is it'll be in Washington, D.C., where everyone treats him as a god. But also, he did lie before Congress, too. Does the pardon cover those things? I don't know. That's a legal question that needs to be asked, but someone needs to ask it. This country is owed answers, and it is owed people to be held accountable for what they did to our citizens.
The pardons on Fauci and Hunter Biden are just so corrupt. I got one more real quick before I let you guys go. Ro Khanna, Congressman, California, worth close to $250 million, by the way, personally, is blasting Elon Musk because Elon has more money than him, saying he needs to answer for the 4.5 million kids that Elon sentenced to death, he says, across the world because he decided to cut U.S. aid and all the corruption in that program. Khanna also calling to increase taxes on Elon. Take a listen to this.
For 5% tax one time on Elon Musk, you could have universal child care in America, $10 a day for every family.
You go to college, you have all this debt, and then you're paying off your debt until you're 50 or 60 and can't get a house. We can pay off that debt, and you know how we pay for it? Tax Elon Musk, tax the billionaires.
Yeah, to tax the guy that's a little richer than I am, or I guess a lot richer. He said 4.5 million kids, Hogan, were sentenced to death because of Elon Musk. He's got about 250 million. He could carve out 100 of that and save countless lives. Why is he killing all those children by not giving them their money?
That's a great point. Just take the money from somebody else. What do you mean? We can fix everything. We just took everybody else's money. Of course, there's not enough money to fix all the problems we face. You need to make your own decisions and be responsible for those. But again, this is such a scam. Elon Musk showed so much fraud, waste, and abuse in the federal government. Instead of thanking him for doing what he did, they're going after the guy who exposed the fraudsters as opposed to the ones who are committing the fraud. I will never understand this.
The messaging of that was so twisted. If you take $1,000 and waste 990 of it, and then the other $10 was going somewhere good, they're gonna excoriate you for removing $10 from a mouth that needed to be fed. Just so twisted. I got to leave it there. Christina, good to see you. Hogan, thanks so much. Appreciate it, guys.
Thank you.
America's 250th from a professional race baiter.
But black people, that nobody black I know is really excited about the 4th of July.
If you have wet AMD or DME, you never want to lose sight of the things you love. And your condition doesn't have to steal the moment. Long-lasting EYLEA HD delivers powerful vision improvements that can save your vision for the future. EYLEA HD is the first and only treatment for wet AMD and DME that gives you a chance for 5 months between injections after 1 year of successful response. Don't take Eylea HD if you have an eye infection, eye pain, redness, or are allergic to it. Eye injections like Eylea HD may cause eye infection, separation of the retina, rare but severe swelling of blood vessels in the eye, or increased eye pressure. There is an uncommon risk of heart attack or stroke. There's still so much to see. Ask about next generation Eylea HD, a treatment retina specialists trust.
You're careful about what you bring home when shopping, especially when it comes to feeding your family. Shouldn't your investments work the same way? At Timothy Plan, we offer a wide selection of mutual funds and ETFs that can help you allocate assets without compromising your values. From technology to healthcare, energy to real estate, our funds are not only diverse but uncompromising to your values. Timothy Plan funds are filtered to avoid companies involved in abortion, pornography, human trafficking, and other harmful agendas. What you invest in should reflect what you stand for. Are your investments bearing good fruit? What's in your portfolio? Contact your financial advisor today to find out, or contact Timothy Plan directly at 1-800-TIM-PLAN to discover more. Before investing, carefully consider the fund's investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses of the investment company. This and other important information can be found in the fund's prospectus. To obtain a copy, visit timothyplan.com or call 800-846-7526. Read each prospectus carefully before investing. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal.
If you're concerned about inflation, government debt, or the value of the dollar, you're not alone. Right now, more Americans are turning to physical gold and silver to help protect their savings. I'm Dean Heskett, President and CEO of Swiss America. For over 40 years, our family-owned company has helped investors protect their wealth through economic uncertainty. But when gold prices rise, something else happens too. New dealers suddenly appear overnight. Big promises, no track record, and too often no accountability. Swiss America has been serving customers since 1982, delivering physical metals, fair pricing, and straight answers. No pressure, no games. If you're considering adding gold or silver to your portfolio, call or text Swiss America and request your free report on protecting wealth with precious metals. When you work with a firm that stood the test of time, you know who you're dealing with today, tomorrow, and years from now. Our experienced team will answer your questions with no obligation. Call or text the number on your screen or visit our website. Experience matters. Trust is earned.
Mike Hammond of Signal Relief. We've helped nearly 700,000 feel relief in their back, shoulders, and knees with our technology. But for many of us, it's our feet that hurt. And when they hurt, our walks get shorter, activities are skipped, and the moments we love start slipping away. That's why we created the Signal Step, a patent-pending insole built using the same proven technology people already trust from Signal Relief. Signal uses no drugs. There's nothing on the market like it. It's relief without the side effects. It's reusable, fits virtually into any shoe, and in a recent study, over 85% felt relief, and it comes with a money-back guarantee. So what are you waiting for? Feel relief with every step. If you're hurting, go to signalstep.com and get relief today.
Welcome back. Time now for news from the left. The queen of the Somali fraudsters and her husband are just total scammers. It's all coming into light. The couple once valued his venture capital and wine empire at $30 million, and now the claim is that he maybe only brought in $200 last year. This is the most ridiculous scam I've ever heard. Ilhan's newly released financial disclosure, Ilhan Omar, showing her husband made zero income last year on his main business, Rose Lake Capital. So all of a sudden, they're making no money at all. This coming after Ilhan claimed that their wealth surged to between $6 and $30 million in 2024, which everybody was like, what? That put a lot of eyeballs on her, just as the Somali fraud story was about to explode. So now the backpedaling, the furious backpedaling, and she's claiming they're totally broke and blaming the misstep here on major accounting errors. Investigate this woman and throw her out of the country. Get her out of here. Someone please do this. Next up, Joy Reid and the 4th of July and our 250th birthday. Take a listen.
Because in many ways, and with apologies to my dear spicy white friends, because I know that my white brothers and sisters do love a 4th of July. But Black people, that nobody Black I know is really excited about the 4th of July. It is the celebration of slaveholders who freed themselves from having to pay taxes to the crown for their slave empire.
The impossible standards for our past, right? Not her past, not her culture's past. Only past that matters is the past of what? Western whites and Europeans. They will never be good enough. Okay, Joy. Next up, Chicago's mayor really focused on what matters here. A new report aiming to find long-term strategies to remove structural barriers for trans people in Chicago. Report demanding policy changes on housing, inclusive workplace practices, healthcare access, and much more. The mayor posting on X, for too many transgender Chicagoans, the sense of belonging they deserve in their city has been denied by exclusion and barriers to opportunity. Just an FYI, as they focus on all of this, Chicago was an absolute bloodbath last weekend. 7 killed, 38 injured. But we see where they're aiming their focus. And finally, a Father's Day guest essay from the New York Times, because this is what Father's Day means at the New York Times. A woman describes learning how to be a transgender father, presented in comic strip form, focusing on her experiences raising a daughter while navigating questions about gender. One image showing the daughter asking her father, "How long did you have breasts for, Dad?" Because so many people identify with that issue. Another picture showing the daughter at the playground telling another child she wants to grow a beard. The child answers, "You can't grow a beard, you're a girl." Daughter responds, "My dad did, and he was a girl." Just if you were curious what Father's Day means in the liberal media. Hilarious moment from the Oval Office up next.
When you're in the news business, it never stops. News is always breaking, and it's my job to get you the news, no spin, no BS. If you don't believe us, just watch us.
Watch Finnerty, weeknights, only on Newsmax.
Hello, everyone. It's President Donald J. Trump, and it's Trump time. Check out this red beauty. It's one of my new watches. Wear it proudly on your wrist, and everyone will know exactly what it's for, who it represents. It's really going to be something special. It's for your favorite president. Get your watch today at gettrumpwatches.com. These make a great gift. It's Trump time.
If you want to be ready for summer, now's the time to call Sono Bello. Sono Bello helped me target the spots that diet and exercise never could.
Sono Bello gave me my bikini body back.
At Sono Bello, our expert surgeons remove stubborn fat permanently and tighten loose skin in one visit with less downtime. Every treatment plan is personalized for your body, your goals, and the results that you want to achieve.
Walking around this summer with my shirt off, it's the best decision I've ever made.
I see my spark back, and I am so glad that I went with Sono Bello because they have truly changed my life.
With over 50,000 five-star reviews, Sono Bello is America's #1 cosmetic surgery specialist. I love wearing a bikini again and not having to cover up. See what's possible for you. Schedule your free consultation today. I got my summer body at Sono Bello. Get your summer body back. Do this for you. And our flexible payment options make it easy to get started today. Call now or go to sonobello.com for your free personalized consultation. It's your life. Live it beautifully.
As a working mom, I'm always on the move. The zip-up shoulder support bra from Tommy Copper is the perfect bra for my busy life. I have to do it all, and I can wear it for anything. I love the support for my back and shoulders. From morning to night, why would I wear any other bra? Thank you, Tommy Copper.
My days are long, packed with activities. I need a bra that's comfortable and supportive.
Thanks, Tommy Copper.
I feel so confident with great posture. No matter what I'm doing, why would I wear any other bra? Thank you, Tommy Copper.
Go to TommyCopper.com and upgrade your bra today.
When I look at this picture, I feel failure. I'm failing my wife, my children, and I'm gonna die soon. I've tried keto, I've tried fasting. I would lose weight and then gain everything back. I needed to do something. I came across LifeMD, signed up, it was extremely simple, and in the first month, I lost 32 pounds. This works, obviously. I'm down 182 pounds in 14 months. It's changed my life. I'm a better husband, a better father. This is the best decision in my entire life.
Get Zepbound, Wegovy, and the new Wegovy pill at the lowest cost with or without insurance at joinlifemd.com.
And finally tonight, Energy Secretary Chris Wright in the Oval Office today trying to remember how many years ago it was that Albert Einstein published his work on quantum technology. Trump could not help himself.
So 141 years ago, Albert Einstein, 121 years ago, Albert Einstein published a paper on...
Nobody cares.
Good good point.
I never go back. And usually they won't catch you. But go ahead.
Published a paper on the photoelectric effect, recognizing the quantum.
120, 140, 120? Nobody cares. Edie Hill up next, in for Finnerty on this Monday night. Hey, Edie, I guess nobody cares. 120, 140, whatever the hell it was.
I don't think they do.
I guess not.
We got the gist of it.
Good to see you.
Oh, good to see you too.
All right.
Thank you.
Information. Truth is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.